32. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kalosmi Loka Kshayakrit Pravridho Lokan Samahartum Iha Pravritta Prithe Pitamna Bhavishyanti Sarve Yeva Vista Pratyanikeshu Yodaha. The blessed Lord said, "Time I am, destroyer of the worlds, and I have come to engage all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain." Text 33. Tasmat tvam utishta yasho labhasva chitva shatrun bhungshva rajam samritam mayai vaite nihata purvam eva nimittamatram bhavasavyasachin. Therefore, get up and prepare to fight. After conquering your enemies, you will enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement. And you, O Savyasachin, can be but an instrument in the fight. Text 34. Dronam cha bhishmam cha jayadrattam cha karnam tathanyan api yodha viran maya hatam tam jahima pratishta yudasvajeta sirane sapatnan. Blessed Lord said, all the great warriors, Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, are already destroyed. Simply fight and you will vanquish your enemies. 635. Sanjaya Uvacha, Etat Shrutva Vachanam Keshavasya, Kritanjalir Vepamana Kiriti, Namaskritva Bhuya Eva Krishnam. Sagadgadambita pita pranamya. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, "O king, after hearing these words from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna trembled, fearfully offered obeisance with folded hands, and began falteringly to speak as follows. Arjuna uvacha Stane Rishikesha Tava Prakirtya Jagat Prarishyatya Anurajyate Cha Raksham Sibitani Disho Dravanti Sarve Namasyanti Chasita Sangaha. O Rishikesh, the world becomes joyful upon hearing your name, and thus everyone becomes attached to you. Although the perfected beings offer you their respectful homage, the demons are afraid and they flee here and there. All this is rightly done. Text 37. Kasmachatena namiran mahatman kariyase brahmanopya adikartre ananta devesha jagannivasa tvam aksharam sarasa tadparam yad. O great one who stands above even Brahma, you are the original master. Why should they not offer their homage up to you, O limitless one? O refuge of the universe, you are the invincible source, the cause of all causes, transcendental to this material manifestation. Text 38. Tvam Adideva Purusha Puranas Tvamasya Vishvasya Param Nidhana Vedhasi Vedyam Shaparam Shatama Tvayatatam Vishvamananta. You are the original personality, the Godhead. You are the only sanctuary of this manifested cosmic world. You know everything, and you are all that is knowable. You are above the material modes, O limitless form. This whole cosmic manifestation is pervaded by you. In text 39. Vayoryamogni Varuna Shashanka Prajapatistam Prapitamahascha Namo Namaste Stu Sahasrakritva Punascha Puyopi Namo Namaste. You are air, fire, water, and you are the moon. You are the supreme controller and the grandfather. Thus I offer my respectful obeisances unto you 1,000 times, and again and yet again. Okay, so we'll go back to the beginning and we'll read a few of these texts until we get to one of the purports by Srila Prabhupada, and we can discuss what we read? So text 29. I see all blazing people rushing with full speed into your mouths as moths dash into a blazing fire. 30. O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people in your flaming mouths, covering the universe with your immeasurable rays, scorching the worlds you are manifest. O Lord of Lords, so fierce a form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. I do not know what your mission is, and I desire to hear of it. 32. The blessed Lord said, Time I am, destroyer of the worlds. I have come to engage all people, with the exception of you, the Pandavas. All the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. Purport. Although Arjuna knew that Krishna was his friend and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was nonetheless puzzled by the various forms exhibited by Krishna. Therefore, he asked further about the actual mission of this devastating force. It is written in the Vedas that the Supreme Truth destroys everything, even Brahma. Yasya brahme cha kshacham cha upe bhavata updana mrityur yasyopasechanam ka itha veda yatrasaha. Even eventually, all the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and everyone else are devoured by the Supreme. This form of the Supreme Lord is an all-devouring giant. And here Krishna presents himself in that form of all-devouring time. Except for a few Pandavas, everyone who was present in that battlefield would be devoured by him. Arjuna was not in favor of the fight, and he thought it was better not to fight. Then there would be no frustration. In reply, the Lord is saying that even if he did not fight, every one of them would be destroyed, for that is his plan. If he stopped fighting, they would die in another way. Death cannot be checked, even if he did not fight. In fact, they were already dead. Time is destruction, and all manifestations are to be vanquished by the desire of the Supreme Lord. That is the law of nature. So when I was reading this, I was thinking about, I remember being young and visiting the beach, and you have sand in your hand, you try to grip it real tight, but you go in the water, somehow the sand just like dissolves and melts from your hand. You can't grip it. So similarly, this is the same thing in the material world. Whatever we become attached to, it's just being stripped from us due to course of time. And Krishna here is saying, Time I am, destroyer of the worlds. Shri Gaura Ki Jai. So this is the ultimate destroying factor in life, time. Who can say that they're above time, that they're not affected by time? The nature of time can be very tricky to pinpoint exactly what time is. You know, we look in the mirror every single day and we don't notice any change. We don't think so much is happening. I'm not getting old. But then you look back at a picture of your body from years ago and you see, oh wow, I've gotten a little bit older. I got some more gray hairs. A little more chubby or whatever it may be, more wrinkles or less hair. Time is constantly manipulating things in the material world. This is the driving factor where the modes of the material nature are there controlling everything, and time is moving it very much like a machine. So the modes of material nature are set up with like different limbs of this machine, and this time factor is moving it. And Krishna says these modes of material nature, they're always fighting for supremacy. So we're always affected to more or less different degrees of these modes of material nature. So Arjuna, up to this point, he was inquiring from Krishna about what to do. He's disturbed. He doesn't know his duty due to miserly weakness. He's too disturbed by the situations on this battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Krishna begins instructing him. As I've been saying, every time I've been giving class, just to highlight it once more, Krishna begins instructing him in the first 6 chapters. He's starting chapter 2. But in general, knowledge pertaining to you're not your body, there's spiritual truth, there's ways of controlling your mind, you have to do karma activity, what is karma, how to act without being attached to the results, and so on. But starting in text chapter 7 to 12, Krishna begins delineating exactly what is bhakti yoga, what is devotional service. He declares his supremacy. And chapter 12, Krishna really puts the cap on it, where he describes that devotional service is the best way to attain him. And he makes it very clear that how anybody in any stage of life can take up devotional service. They can, rather, if they can't take up devotional service, there's something that they can do to act that will bring them to devotional service, because it's all about a purification of this contaminated consciousness that's contaminated with the false ego, the modes of material nature. And eventually, the end of the next chapter, which, as you can tell, I'm eager to get to, Krishna says exactly what pleases me. He says, I'm pleased by this. I'm pleased by this. You know, when the devotee acts like this, I'm pleased. And he says, I'm very, very pleased when this happens. We'll wait till we get there to discuss that. But Krishna is instructing Arjuna. Arjuna is asking questions. He's inquiring. He's hearing submissively. And Krishna begins to explain his greatness. So naturally, Arjuna wants to see how great he actually is. Does anybody remember what was discussed in the 10th chapter? Anything at all? Yes, of fish I am the sharks. Of mountains I am. Of unmovable objects I am. Of birds I am. Y'all are good. Testing you. So yeah, vibhuti. Vibhuti means opulence. Krishna began to describe his opulences. And what did he say after he explained these opulences? He said, what's the need of knowing this? Oh, this is just but a spark of my splendor. So the greatest things that we could possibly imagine with our tiny, feeble little mind and our little senses that are imperfect is just but a mere fraction of the greatness of God. How great must he really be? So Krishna shows Arjuna his greatness in this form of this universal form. And you could see where Arjuna in the previous text, 630, he said, oh, Vishnu. So he didn't even call him Krishna anymore at this point. He's, oh, Vishnu, you know. Oh. He was very disturbed. The whole mood changed in the dynamic between the relationship of Krishna and Arjuna. So then later in the end of the chapter, which we're not there yet, but Arjuna is too disturbed by this universal form. He says, oh, Lord, please, I just want to see you in your four-armed form. And then he says, I want to see you in the form of Shama Sundar. And this is the prelude to the next chapter, where Krishna says, just worshiping me, remembering me, thinking of me, this is devotional service. This is the highest. And if you can't do that, try to do this. If you can't do that, try to do this. So this is what we're trying to cultivate as aspiring bhaktas, is to remember Krishna in this form of Shama Sundar, because he is ever loving. He's ever kind to his devotees. He's filled with all majestic opulences in this personal form. Krishna, he describes how fools deride him when he appears in this human form, thinking that he's was unmanifest before as some impersonal thing, and now he's taking a personal form. But only the devotees can see that. And how can they see? There's a famous verse in the Brahma Samhita. Premanjana charita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hirayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya guna sarupam govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. So the word there is Shama Sundaram. This beautiful form of Krishna says, only one whose eyes are adorned with the salve of love can see Krishna as he is. So this is what we're trying to do, is cultivate this loving devotional service. And earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks about how this process is sursukam kartam avyayam. It's very joyfully performed. And I'm jumping between different chapters, so bear with me. But in the beginning of the 12th chapter, Arjuna, he asked the question. He says, of these two processes, what's better? The impersonal route or the route of just taking to the personal worship of you? And Krishna says clearly that the impersonal, the indirect method, rather, is very troublesome, it's very difficult. And we could think, it requires shutting down the senses, being very strict. If you look at the 8 limbs of yoga, of Ashtanga, there's certain do's and don't do's. You have to control your mind, your senses. You have to do certain practices just to make that be even possible. So it's very strict. It's very hard to do. But from the beginning of devotional service to Krishna, it's very easy. And Prabhupada repeatedly makes the point that devotional service means engaging our senses in the service of the master of the senses. So we don't have to try to shut down our senses and lie to ourselves that, there's certain things that I don't enjoy. I don't like this. I like, we take whatever's there that's favorable for devotional service and we take it and we offer it to Krishna out of love. And what does Krishna say? A few chapters back, he says, I always forget the Sanskrit, but one who offers me a leaf, a flower, water, with love, I accept. In that shloka, he uses the word bhakti twice, actually, to show the importance that by bhakti, Krishna is pleased. He accepts the devotee's offering. So I could go pick a million flowers, and bring it in a whole dump truck and bring it here and bring it in a wheelbarrow and bring it to the temple and, put it on the altar and be like, here you go, Krishna, there, it's for you. Hard for, what do I get out? How is this pleasing to Krishna? But somebody be very poor, very elderly or whatever the situation is, and they just pick one little leaf with so much love and care and genuinely wanting to offer to Krishna. Krishna accepts this. So back to the point of Susukum Kartim Avyayam, this path being joyously performed. I don't know about everybody else's experience, but maybe sometimes it's not always joyfully performed. Sometimes. This means that we're not actually Krishna conscious. This means that we're not rendering pure devotional service. So we should check ourselves and see where we're at. Because if I'm feeling envious or angry or frustrated, it's only because of one thing. I'm envious of Krishna. I'm not the controller. Things aren't going the way that I want them to be. I want to enjoy like this. I want people to tend to my needs and serve me. I want attention. I want name. I want fame. I want me, me and mine, me and mine. Putting ourselves as the center. And when ourself is as the center, what is this? Kicking Krishna out of the center. What does Krishna say? He says, Oktaram Nigatapatam Sarva Loka Maheswaram Saridam Sarva Bhutanam Sashantam. What's the last line? Sashantam Mam. Okay. It escaped me. Anyways, Krishna is the source, all yajna, all sacrifices, all austerities are meant to be offered to the Lord. He is the well-wisher of all living entities. One who acts in this way attains peace. This is often referred to as the peace formula. So, if we're not peaceful, we probably haven't understood this point. That Krishna, he's the center. And if we put him in the center and make him the center of our life, then we'll be happy. But the more that we're putting ourselves in the center, we'll be frustrated. And practicing Krishna consciousness is not limited to living in the temple as we are now. You can do it from any walk of life, any stage, wherever you're at. Man, woman, black, white, short, tall, fat, skinny, old, young. But we're fortunate to be in the temple atmosphere where a lot of our basic, essential needs are provided for us. So we have more time for what? Hearing, chanting, devotional service. So if we're partaking in these events, coming to class or the arti, the kirtan, or whatever, associating with devotees, and we're not actually putting our heart into it, there's no way we'll be happy. We'll constantly be frustrated. The mind will take you on a ride. Or is it just me? You lose your attention, your concentration during the arti of hearing and chanting, gazing upon the deities, and next thing you know, you're thinking, oh wow, it's too hot in here. Oh, I should go, eat this. Oh, I missed this. I missed that. Why am I here? I should leave. The mind just spins and spins and spins. So we have to get absorbed in the service that we're doing for Krishna. And the more that we get absorbed, the more you get Krishna's mercy and you get a taste for something higher. And when you get this taste for something higher, naturally all the problems of the material world seem meaningless. How else can, a bunch of young, reckless people brought up in the Western culture sit together in a room and, not do some kind of intoxication or some kind of rebellious, chaotic thing? It's because there's potency in the holy name. There's potency in the process of devotional service. And as a neophyte, we may take it for granted. I've been around. I know the songs they sing. I know, the basic philosophy. I know Bhagavad Gita. I know Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. This is a question we have to ask ourselves, what do I really know? Because somebody who's humble, they'll never say they mastered the Bhagavad Gita, that they know it, that they know the depths of bliss that the holy name can bring. We've mentioned a few times as of late, but Ananta Shesh, he's trying to glorify the Lord with his thousands of heads. And we're using our one little mouth. We think, after 30 minutes, it's like, okay, I got to the bottom of it. There's as much glorification I could do of Krishna. He can never find a limit to the glorification of Krishna. And there's so much nectar there. But because our consciousness is polluted with this possessive mentality, me, mine, the false ego wanting credit and attention, then we think chanting Hare Krishna is not as good as it's portrayed, in the book. Devotional service, it's not as nectarian, or we distinguish between one service and the other. Prabhupada said there's no difference between being jari on the altar, offering arti to the deities, versus somebody mopping the floor in the temple. I can offer the arti. I'm wiping all this paraphernalia. I'm counting circles of things I'm doing methodically, but really my mind's thinking about, man, I can't wait to take that vacation to go to the beach in a couple of weeks. It's like my mind's not even with Krishna, I'm not going to take a vacation to go to the beach, but I'm just giving an example. Unless everybody comes together and we distribute books or something. But point being, somebody could be in the back of the temple, like a wheelchair crippled, but their mind is fully absorbed in what's going on and loving Krishna. So this is the same for everything we're doing. If I'm washing the dishes, how attentive of like what I'm doing, why I'm doing. I'm making the garlands. Am I just doing it just because I have to do a duty and throw it together? Or am I doing it as a loving gesture to Krishna? So these are all things we have to check within ourselves and constantly be introspective as we strive for higher and higher standards of devotional service. Because imagine you have a relationship with somebody. It's usually a blast in the beginning. It's exciting. This person's new. You hear all their stories. You hear about their life. It's like, wow, it's like intoxicating. But then after a while, It's like, oh yeah, I know this person, and oh yeah, they actually have lots of flaws and things I may not find so attractive. So you have to dig deeper to connect with that person on a deeper level. You have to go out of your way more to please that person, to show that you care, to reciprocate. Krishna is a person. Krishna is the same. Krishna has blessed us with an opportunity to take up devotional service, but if we don't take it serious and commit offenses, which, spoiler alert, we're all probably committing offenses all the time more than we're aware of. At least I know I am myself. So we have to endeavor to show Krishna more and more that we truly want him, that we want him in our life, that we want to serve him, that we want to know him. And by that genuine desire, and what does Krishna say? To that person who is constantly endeavoring to come to me with sincere attitude, I, building in their heart, remove all the ignorance and provide the path for them to come to me. Everything that we need to know to perfect our life is within this Bhagavad Gita. It's the words of God. They're perfect. They're infallible. We just have to be open to it. We have to hear it, and we have to try to understand. But ultimately, Krishna, he says, only by devotional service is he known. So one could be a scholar and study every single word of this book, and they still wouldn't come to the conclusion necessarily. But by doing an attitude of service and surrender out of love, then Krishna, he becomes obliged to take care of his devotee. It's like, imagine, you like walk outside and there's like a sick dog that comes up to you, and he's like crying and begging for your help, and you try to walk away, but he follows you, and he's right there, he's so sad. You're like, man, like I got to do something, he's trying to take shelter of me. So we have to check ourselves, like when we're chanting japa, when we're chanting Hare Krishna. Am I really calling out like this sick dog coming to this person asking for help? Or am I really thinking, when will I get to 16? When will I be done so I can really be happy? Or we're thinking, man, this is tough. I don't want to. Welcome. So that's Bhagavad Gita. That's a few thoughts. Maybe anybody has some points of discussion or questions or comments, realizations. If not, I can always keep reading and keep talking. Yeah, we have a microphone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class, Babaji, so far. You speaking about making garlands actually kind of triggered this question for me. I'm starting all these new sevas, and I realize in myself that I am striving for perfection in these activities. And as I was doing them, I realized that this perfection is very egotistical. It's very I-centered, and it's not so much in the vein of how can I perform this service better for Krishna? And I was just wondering maybe how can I start moving away from that egotistical perfection, and moving more towards how can I perform this service better for Krishna?
I mean, just by asking the question, you're already doing that. So you're on the right track. We're all practicing. We're all practicing. But just by doing devotional service alone, purification will be there. So the mere fact of becoming aware of that is a semblance, of mercy, of seeing that I have this kind of contamination. So there's aparad. Aparad means, it's often translated to as offense. Like we commit certain aparads in our seva, in our chanting, and this is what limits or blocks this flow of love and mercy. But that's actually what the word aparad means, is like it, which takes one away from this devotion. So you could imagine like another example about a relationship. Say we may have a relationship with somebody and I act in a certain way that irritates them or frustrates them. Then naturally our relationship is a little skewed. It's not so flowing and open and lovey. But then one has to, own up to their mistakes, or discuss with the person and beg forgiveness and make up in that way. So similarly, when we make these aparads, it takes us away from that. So to be aware of this and constantly try to approach in a better and better way, basically, if we stick with it with the intention of trying to get better, even though I know I'm not in a pure platform, then that's our merit to continue to having the mercy flow. But on the contrary, if we're just doing it in a very mechanical way and like a chore, like a burden, and like I just don't even like doing this, it's frustrating, then very easy we could fall into a trap where we just are annoyed by it all, and there's no love, no connection there. So we have to have a balance between hearing and chanting and service. Hearing convinces us of why we're doing what we're doing. Who wants to wake up at 4 a.m. and come to the temple of Mangal Arti with all these people here and chant these words that most of us don't understand, and go through the austerities that we go through? We need to hear of the importance of why we would want to take up devotional service, and we need to chant, because if we're not chanting, there's no hope at all. That's the essence of everything. And then we have to do service because it helps us stay humble. That I'm doing some menial service because, like I gave the example of bringing these flowers in, but we could use it for garlands. I could offer Krishna the most grandest, garland that's like twisted and has all these colors and different flowers, and it's like this big. But if I'm just like doing it in a robot like fashion, with no love, it's like Krishna is much more pleased if we offer him something simple with love. So basically, my point is that when we're chanting the holy names, we're committing aparads. But if we're striving to come to be free from the aparads, then that's bringing us like a purification, so we can actually come to that platform. But if we're just chanting ignorantly, doing these aparads, then we'll make more aparads, and eventually we'll lose taste, we'll become frustrated, we'll become angry, and we'll fall down. We'll think, why would I want to give my life to somebody who I don't even know is there? But Krishna's there. You just have to make the effort. And personally, many times, in devotional service, you become challenged and you become like your back's against the wall almost. And it's like, this is tough. Why am I doing this? And I really want to do this. I have this desire. I still want to do that. I'm still young. I have time to enjoy. But then it's in those moments that we really have to just push and like, okay, Krishna, like, I don't even want to do this, but I'm just going to try to do it for you. And I can't speak for everybody else's experience, but it's in those moments where Krishna's mercy really shines. And eventually you learn that, okay, let me just stay in that consciousness of just doing it for Krishna. And then life, no matter what happens, life goes on. Krishna, he says repeatedly throughout the Bhagavad Gita that one who's One should tolerate happiness and distress. One should see happiness and distress equally. And one should rise above this happiness and distress. And how do we do that? I'm going to do devotional service no matter what. So when I wake up and I don't feel like chanting, guess what? Still chant. I wake up, I don't want to come to Mangal Arati. Maybe I'm sick and I can't come. That's one thing. But like I wake up and I just don't want to come. Yeah, I'm going to come. And I'm not saying me per se, but I'm saying that's the mentality of a devotee. So we can overcome the temporary happiness, the stress, which come and go constantly. This is the whole issue with the material world. It says that everybody is born into this delusion of duality. So we're chasing happiness, we're running away from distress. You like distress? Now when you see a spider, nobody likes distress, so we're running away from the stress and we're chasing happiness. But they're two sides of the same coin. So the more we're engrossed in chasing and running, it's anchoring in aversion. Same thing. So the more we can be equipoised and continue our devotional service, no matter what Krishna brings, it's intensely purifying, and then it's just more of an opportunity to glorify Krishna. So long-winded answer, and I went off on some other topics, but thank you for the question. Does anybody else have any other points? Bhakti Aiden was quickest on the draw.
Coming from a place of like maybe having like a little bit of spite towards Krishna, God, but trying to have some sort of love, but not having an easy time without love because of the spite that was there before me trying to have some sort of love. How do I love Krishna from that position?
Say we meet a person on the street, we make a connection, create a relationship. Do you like fully love them after the first day? It takes an effort as a relationship. So you can read and hear in the book that, yeah, you're supposed to love Krishna, but you don't love Krishna. What do? We have to follow those who have love for Krishna and have faith that by following them, that love will manifest. But that faith isn't blind faith, not like you just believe, and it will happen. No, you can examine and question, okay, this person loves Krishna. How do I know he loves Krishna? What does it mean to love Krishna? What are the symptoms of loving Krishna? Why would I want to love Krishna too? And all these questions can be perfectly answered. And Prabhupada often gave the answer for showing, a symptom of loving God means one will lose interest in the material world. Jesus also said, at least one time I was driving by in Virginia and I saw there's a church, sometimes they put these signs on the front. And it said, Jesus said, love God, don't love the world. And I was like, yes, that's it. So that's what Prabhupada said, that when one truly loves God, they lose interest for material pleasures because it's temporary. There's nothing there. They turn to real happiness, which is in knowing the Lord, the relationship with the Lord. So by serving them, we can develop an affinity for hearing the message of the Lord. By hearing the message of the Lord and allowing it to enter into our hearts, not just hearing and have it go in one ear and out the other ear, or have it like spin around in our mind and be chewed out. And I say, oh, I got it, but it's not for me. Allow it to enter our heart and bring a transformation. Then we can also too develop that love. And first, a purification is there. Because like I mentioned, you start a relationship with somebody new you just met. There has to be a give and a take. You make a step out of your comfort zone to do something for this person. And then, they feel obliged and they reciprocate with you in a certain way. But anybody in the material world who we try to enter in a relationship with love will ultimately be dissatisfied because they can never reciprocate perfectly. And I guarantee every single one of us has experiences of this. We try to give our love to somebody, but they don't. We spend all day doing some nice gesture, preparing some, planning something to offer to them, and they're just like, oh, that's great, but where's this? Krishna's not like that. Krishna sees every endeavor we're doing, every pain, every austerity we're going through. He knows exactly what's going on in your mind more than you do. So it's best to be real with Krishna and approach Krishna from that platform. Like, Krishna, I don't know if you're there. I don't feel like I have love for you, but I'm open. I want to love you. I want to know you. I'm willing to do what it takes. Please help me. Please reveal yourself to me. Because we can't lie to Krishna. We can only lie to ourselves. So we can go on lying to ourselves saying, okay, I know Krishna's God. Yeah, this makes sense. This is it. I believe in it. But deep down, not even so deep down, we don't even really believe it. This is why it's said in a neophyte stage. It describes different stages of devotees. One who's on the lowest platform, they can very easily be swayed just by hearing from somebody. I go out and I'm distributing books and I'm like, yeah, that's great. And then I talk to somebody and they're like very sure and confident in their philosophy. And then all of a sudden I'm doubting everything that I've heard for the past, month or 2 months or 5 years. So the best way to overcome that is by taking shelter of the senior devotees and very submissively inquiring, really trying to get to the bottom of our doubts and our worries and our fears. So yeah, we have to follow those who love Krishna. They can give us love for Krishna. Okay, you had something?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the nice class, Prabhu. I really enjoy how you give overviews of different parts, different chapters. Helps me tie everything together. Reminds me that this is a conversation that's happening. So thank you for that. My question is the first text. And as we were reading this, I kind of had a little bit of insight into my past. As someone who liked to put themselves in a position where they could really feel how small they were climbing mountains. This is something I thought what just kind of came to light why I was doing what I was doing. I was climbing these mountains and getting to the top of them and feeling like I owned the whole world, but I was kind of masking it in this desire that I had to actually feel how small I was. But the truth is, I don't think I like feeling how small I am when I read these texts, like this one, text 29. And when I heard Krishna Shravana talking this morning about the Purusha avatars, Mahavishnu, and it's concerning how small I am, like how little I matter, and it makes me a bit bewildered. I'm not claiming to be as affected as Arjuna is by seeing Krishna's universal form, but I feel that. So maybe you can help me out with remedying the way in which I feel, which is very insignificant, very small, and helpless.
One has to examine where this is coming from. This is a telltale sign of the ahankara, false ego, because this is the nature of the false ego. I'm big, I'm special, I'm great. So it can be scary as we approach something that makes us not just feel small, but realize how insignificant we actually are. That I used to live in my own little world, in my, whatever corner, physical proximity I pick of the world, it's irrelevant, but I live my own mental sphere. And in that mental sphere, I'm the greatest. Everybody's there to serve me. I know what's best. And if people get in my way, I'm just going to go my own way because I know what I want. I know what will work out best. But as we approach Krishna and we learn to trust Krishna and the devotees more, and this developing faith of, again, just to reiterate, I use the word faith, but it's not in a blind way. It's coming in like a way of conviction and understanding and realization and knowledge. It's very systematic of understanding. As we approach more and more, the focus becomes upon Krishna and not upon me. So whether I'm big or small is irrelevant. If Krishna wants, he can give me the most elegant words to speak to, touch people's hearts. Or also he can withdraw that and I just croak like a frog. One has to see that everything is just the mercy of the Lord. This was what was described in the chapter 10, the vibhutis, all the opulences. Whatever greatness we see in the world is just a tiny fraction. It's emanating from Krishna. So we think, man, I'm smart, I'm sharp, I'm beautiful, I'm pretty, I'm witty, I'm funny, I'm strong. Where is this coming from? Because for us, it's always temporary and transient. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a shloka describing that whatever good qualities one may possess that's not, used in service or in relationship to the Lord, it's ultimately not real because it's just on the mental platform. It's subject to change over time. But a devotee who takes up the process of devotional service naturally, without separate endeavor, develops all the good qualities of the demigods. So then whatever you're using, it becomes in connection with Krishna, so it becomes real, it becomes factual, it becomes substantial. So in that case, yeah, you may be small, but you're actually, much bigger than false ego, which is just illusion. So we feel big, we feel proud, but we're all humbled, whether we accept it or not, because what did Krishna say a few verses later? Time I am, destroyer of the worlds. So we all have to bow down. It's just a matter of who do we bow down to? Because if you don't bow down to anybody, you're certainly going to bow down to death and be made a fool. I mean, yes. I was just thinking of something funny, like when Krishna killed the Keshi demon, Keshi's like this big, ferocious demon. He's like the most gnarly demon there is, and he's charging Krishna, he's running after him, and he's neighing, doing this. Too bad Bhakta Cody's not here. He knows the horses, they do the neighing, but he's doing it loud and ferocious. It's kicking up dust in the sky, and he approaches Krishna, and Krishna catches him and throws him like 300 yards away, and the Keshi's like knocked out on the ground, and he comes back with more force and more anger, and then Krishna just sticks his fist down his throat, and his whole arm becomes like burning red hot, and it becomes inflated, and then the Keshi demon is suffocating, and his eyes start bulging out of his head, and then he like passes stool on the earth, and then he dies. So this is a common phenomenon actually, is when people die, they pass fluids and solids because certain parts of your body that's conditioned to constrict and have tension to keep things in, they become relaxed and things escape. So I just thought of that, of how it highlights the point of, yeah, you're very, very humbled at death. So we might as well become humble now and realize I'm small. I mean, look up in the stars at nighttime. I mean, we generally go to sleep very early and there's lots of city lights here, but I'm sure we all have experience of looking up in the stars. And very easy to see how small I am. I'm just on this tiny little rock floating in this like vast array of open space. And there's how many people on the earth? 7 billion. How many living entities on the earth? Innumerable. And the Shastra says there's living entities everywhere, microscopic germs, just everywhere. But yet we think, I'm special. But what about me? What about my feelings? We're not so special. Hate to break it to you, well, we're not. So we have to get over that, and we realize who is special. Krishna is special. When we begin to render service to Krishna, then we become special. But we don't have love and devotion for Krishna. We don't have attachment to service. So we follow those who do, because they are special. So all glories to Guru, all glories to Parampara, because they're special. And by serving them, we also become special too. But that's not the goal. Devotee never wants to be special, because whatever attention I'm getting, all glories to Guru, all glories to Krishna. They're actually the bestower of mercy. And this isn't just some fabrication in the mind where somebody offers me some praise and I just like, oh yeah, all glories to them. No, like whatever I have is coming from their mercy, from their blessings. It wasn't for Guru, and I say this, in tattva of Guru, but like realistically, if it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada, I can't speak for everybody else, but personally, I would be lost. Intoxication, eating meat, illicit sex, completely bewildered by the opposite sex, bewildered by the relationships, bewildered by what the point of life is. But immediately coming in contact with Prabhupada, Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shlake Chakshura Militamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. The Guru opens our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. So we always have to remember that. And when one realizes that in full, then they realize I am in debt to this person. I will never be able to repay this debt. So what can I do? I can offer myself. It's all that I have. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai, Shri Shri Gauranatai, Ki Jai. Vancha Kapataruvyas Chakripal Sindhye Vichapati